Do you find that your photos all look the same? They don't stand out that much. They just look a little bit boring? Well, there's one really simple technique that'll get you out of this beginner habit. And if you follow this process I'm about to show you, it'll help you get so many more interesting photos. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mike Smith and I'm a landscape photographer. I do weekly videos giving you hints and tips on photography and helping with your motivation. So if you like what you see, make sure to subscribe. When you're out taking photographs, it's quite easy to look at a scene, think it looks nice, take a photograph of it and move on. And chances are, if you think your photos are a little bit boring, this is probably what you're doing. If this does sound like you, all I want you to do is think about wide, medium and close-up the next time you find a subject. So let's have a look at this scene in front of me. If I was just to get a snapshot of it, I'd just take a shot like this and then move on. And that's okay, but if you do this throughout the whole day, all of your shots become very similar, and similarity in a sequence of shots becomes boring very quickly. I did this when I first started photography. I didn't have a clue as to why I wasn't getting better, well, at least the rate that I wanted to anyway. And this was back in the 90s and YouTube didn't exist then, so it's the good old library to find any kind of information. However, when I started using this mindset of wide, medium and close-up, my photographs really started to change. So I might get a shot like this, which is very similar to what I took earlier on. Then I might put the zoom lens on and start picking out things within that landscape. So I might get a shot like this, which is a little bit tighter. That's almost like a medium shot. And then might get a shot like this, which is a close-up. And I normally take around about 3 close-ups to every wide shot that I take. This is one of the things I love doing. And if there's really nice light really far away, a big zoom lens can really help. And this will make your photographs so much more interesting, and it'll give the group of photographs a really nice story. Now, another thing is, if you watch a lot of movies, you'll probably see this pattern time and time again. They might start off with a wide establishing shot to show off the scene, and then they'll show a medium shot and then some of the close-ups. And sometimes they'll mix it up by starting on a close-up and finishing on a wide, but they will follow this technique of using a wide, a medium and a close-up. I also did it with this video. At the start, I had a wide, a medium and a close-up, and I kind of mixed them up a little bit to try and keep you interested and keep the video moving on. With movies, there's a reason why the director of photography is really important, and he's almost like the right-hand man to the director. And it's because that person decides what the frame's going to look like and how visually interesting it's going to be. Now, the light is hitting the mountains behind me, so I'm going to get a few shots of this following this principle, and I'll put them on screen to show you what I mean. I love it when the light's like this. There's dappled light coming through. There's just these little pockets of light on the landscape. It's making for really interesting scenes. Yeah, get that. This is why I love coming out when the weather's like this. You're not sure what you're gonna get. Sometimes you get absolutely nothing, and other times you get really nice shots. No matter what photography genre you shoot, if you have this technique in mind, you'll get much more interesting photographs. Now, I suppose it's a strategy more than a technique, but you know what I mean. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's okay for you, Mike. You've got your big telephoto lens on your camera and you can pick things out of that landscape. But if you only have one lens, you can still take advantage of this. Well, this definitely wasn't forecast. Big squall has just come through. And even though I'm not soaked, I had to put the camera away for now. Gotta love the British weather. So let's say I just had a prime lens, a 35mm. I can still use this principle to get some different shots with this one lens. So we've got these hills in the distance. I like the way that the light's hitting them, but with a 35mm prime, I can't zoom in, so that's the only shot that I can get. But then I can move my position to change that and get that wide, medium, close-up principle working again. So I've got this pile of rocks behind me. Might get that in the foreground with those mountains in the background. So I might do something like that, focus on the rocks in the foreground, or I might even drop the aperture right down and blur out that background. Or do the opposite, blur out the foreground and get that background in the shot. Also, you might want to get actual close-ups. So there's some rocks in the foreground and also there's some heather as well. I've got a few different shots of those with this lens. So once again, this is utilizing that wide, medium and close-up principle. There are so many different applications to this strategy, from using a zoom lens to moving with your feet to getting a macro and a super wide shot. So there's so many different things you can do in just thinking about wide, medium and close up. On the other hand, you might just have a kit lens, but you can still use this strategy. So I might get a wide shot like this, then zoom in on the details like this, then get a medium shot like this. You are a little bit more limited when you just have a kit lens, and this is why it's good to get a telephoto and a wider lens as well. But if you do just have the kit lens, you can get really interesting shots with it. To be honest, any kind of zoom lens helps. And even though I love the quality that I get from prime lenses, I love the versatility of a zoom lens. And this is why lenses with a wide range are great. The 50 to 400, the 28 to 200, or the 24 to 105. These are all fantastic lenses. They'll give you such a great reach. And if landscape photography is your hobby and you've got to fit it in around your work, you'll probably be very limited with time. And that's when a lens like this really comes in handy. Now this will help you get better photographs when you're out. But what happens if you've planned a day or you've planned a hike and that day comes around and that light's dull and boring? It's easy to sack it off and go and do something else. But if you persevere and go out anyway, you'll learn so much more about your photography and your skills will go through the roof. And in this video, I'll show you exactly how you can do this. I'll see you next time.